Pauline says that we are up and running and recording, so it is 9:37, and I would like to call the regular meeting of council to order for Tuesday, October the 13th. We have with us today in the council chamber, Councillors Strang, Sutherland, Corbis, and Vazarowicz. And attending virtually, we have Councillors Boulanger and Spicer. And we also have our CAO, Deepak Joshi, with us today, and our Assistant CAO, Colleen Saylor. So with that, I will ask for the adoption of the agenda, please.
Resolved, the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated with the noted additions.
Moved by Councillor Vazarowicz, second by Councillor Sutherland. Are there any other additions or deletions or anything to be adjusted in the agenda? Members of council? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, next we'll do confirmation of the minutes, and we have two sets of minutes. We have the committee meeting or committee on September the 21st and regular planning on September the 22nd. So if I could have that resolution, please.
Resolved, the minutes of the committee of the whole, September 21st, 2020, and regular planning, September 22nd, 2020 meetings of council be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second. Councillor Spicer. Any corrections, additions, deletions to either sets of minutes? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we do have an in-camera item this morning, and it is a delegation that would like to speak about some developments. So if I could have a resolution to please go in camera.
Resolved, the council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues. And further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor Corbis, seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Now we just have to wait a minute. Colleen is going to turn the recording on. and it'll take a couple of minutes. Does anybody need a break, or we're all good to keep going?
Let's roll on.
Okay, Colin tells me that we are up and recording again, so with that, I would ask for a resolution to come out of camera, please.
Resolved that as per section 152.4 of the Municipal Act, Council of the Rural Municipality of St. Clements does now resume sitting of regular meeting.
Can I have a mover, Councillor Pazarovich, Councillor Spicer seconds? Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we are on number 5 on our agendas, communication for action. And there's one item there, and that is for a virtual meeting tomorrow evening, I believe it is. Red River North Tourism, it's their AGM. Anybody have any questions, or Deepak, did you want to comment on it, or Councillor Strang? I know you're quite involved with the tourism part of it.
No, AGM
Yes?
tomorrow evening. I believe they only sent the invitation out to, when it was forwarded to the office, I think it was only sent to Councillor Forbes and myself, but yes, it is open to everybody to involve.
Okay.
One thing that, I think is there something coming up from another issue that for a decision for us to make? Okay, we'll leave that to them.
Go ahead, Councillor
I
Roberts.
have, tomorrow I have a meeting with Dave and Brandon Ray, so were you gonna go to this, or no?
It's all on Zoom,
Oh, so, but were you
yes,
you're gonna Zoom it?
but we can all, it's open to
I
every, it's open
think
to
I
all
registered
council.
to zoom in on it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
You do need to reply back to them, no, so they can get your email address.
Yes, I think I did that part of it already, so I don't know that we got the Zoom links yet.
No, I told them that on council, that I noticed it was only sent to Councillor Forbes and myself, and I will bring it up in council, so I said we might have some late people registering,
Okay,
so they were fine.
so did you want?
That's the only thing I was going to add was the email is info@redrivernorthtourism.com, where you register, you give them your name and email address, and they provide you the Zoom information before the meeting.
Okay. Down to number 6 on our agenda, new business, and it's the FCM, the Municipal Green Fund Grant Agreement. Go ahead, Deepak, that is for which project?
This is the application that we had made as a Green Municipal Fund for the property that was the old St. Clements dump site that was to look at remediation and receive the funding approval. This is just basically us signing the agreement. We just want to bring it forward for council as information.
Okay, thank you for that. 6.2 is the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, and that is a letter that, oh, sorry.
We just need to do a resolution
Oh.
on this.
Yeah, I kind of thought that we should have been doing one, but I thought maybe we had done it previous.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
That's okay. Okay, if you want to read the resolution for the Municipal Green Fund for 6.1, please.
Resolve the agreement between ARM St. Clements and Federation of Canadian Municipalities for a Green Municipal Fund grant to be accepted, and the mayor and the CAO be authorized to sign the agreement.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any further discussion on the Green Fund agreement? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So now we're going to go to the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, and this is as a result of our meeting, Deepak and I, when we met with them, and the request to have that name change on Colonization Road. We have requested that a formal letter come in, so Deepak, if you want to add anything to that, this is the letter that they have submitted for that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now that we've received the official letter, we can start our official process of the name change. We anticipate that we'll be bringing this forward as a bylaw name change for Colonization Road, and go through the process and do it as a public hearing and allow for some comments before council makes a final decision on what the name should be. We'll do some investigation. I think there were some questions around whether we could use the existing names such as 84 North or others. we'll take a look at, Colleen and I were going through some of that last week as to determine whether those could, even though it may look like that physically, but what is it registered with the province of Manitoba that 84 North doesn't continue on in a different direction that we have to take into consideration or not.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Sutherland and then Councillor Bazarowicz.
That was my question, what, what has come up so far in discussions about the name, but it would be nice just to see a numbered road, as all our other ones are. So, I mean, we don't know what the process is gonna give us in the end, but that's what I think would be better, instead of
There has been some name,
simplifies it.
there has been some name suggestions put forward by citizens already who have contacted the office. We'll bring that forward now as part of this process. There is also a process that's been identified by council, which uses the Heritage Committee to make recommendations. One of the requests that when Madam Mayor and I met with the council from Ojibwe Nation was that they wanted to see if one of their representatives could meet with the Heritage Committee. We didn't see that as a significant issue because at the end of the day, it all comes to council for discussion. So we'll bring all those things together and then make it as a presentation along with a report and along with maybe members of the community who may want to come and speak at that time, at which point council can make a decision.
Yeah, perfect, yeah, I would just like to simplify it and make it, I hope it goes that way, but especially if you give it a name, now you're gonna have people, I think, so well, you took away this name and now you're giving it another name, why does it deserve that name?
Correct.
I just think the argument's gonna come, whereas if it's a numbered road, like all our other, most of our roads are, that's all, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazarowicz?
We know there's a cost associated with this. Do we have any idea how much the cost would be, and where does this come out of this? Is it just general revenue, or?
That'll come in the report as we take a look at it. We anticipate, I think we had identified 7 to 8 properties that would be impacted. So those individuals would definitely have some costs that we have to, as the municipality is making the change, have to incur. There are other costs such as putting in the new nameplates on the roads themselves that we have to take into consideration as part of this. We don't anticipate any other major costs. There are costs associated with doing a bylaw, which is advertising and so forth, that would be
Any
coming
legal?
out of general administration. There might be some legal, I don't anticipate. Normally, municipality can make a name change without having to go through a bunch of legal issues. The only legal cost would be if somebody objects or is requesting more than what the municipality is capable of covering as costs. As an example, if somebody's running a business on that location and then want to claim all these additional costs, that might become a bit of an issue, but I don't anticipate that becoming a major issue at this point.
And Councillor Horvis just mentioned he does own property along that road, so he probably should not be in when we discuss it next time, like this is, or should he be leaving now?
It's a good question.
I have one question though before I leave or whatever. So what you're saying in this letter is that we're changing the name of that road? Basically, it's not more for the discussion or anything, we're changing it. And,
I think that was the direction that we had already created from council when we went and met with the Ojibwe Nation. The council was prepared to make a change, but needed to have a formal request from someone other than just a Facebook request. That, if there was a written request from a local resident or from a neighboring community, that would initiate the discussion. Now, that being said, there is a process that's being done. At which point, if council, at that point, based on that process, decided not to, I guess that's council's decision. I wouldn't
I'm just
presume.
looking for some clarification on it, that's all. But I thought we had mentioned before that you had said that we were gonna make a bylaw stating that this wouldn't happen again, that it would only come from residents of St. Clements, not from outside or anything like that?
We looked at a bylaw that would only come from residents or from a neighboring kind of municipality situation, a government-to-government kind of a request. We could receive a request from a provincial government or federal government to make street name or some change. You know, that's a normal course. But we needed an official body, right? What we encountered as part of this process was that one of the things we learned, there was nothing that we could relay back to our country, to anyone saying that this is the process. So that in the future, if somebody just submits something on the Facebook, we would say, this is the process. You have to be a representative of an organization to make a request to council, or you have to be a resident. And that's what we plan to put in as part of this, so that we can avoid this situation in the future. Correct. And to answer the question about, at this point, I don't think that there's a conflict. It's when the bylaw comes forward for discussion. At that point, councillor yourself can decide to declare yourself as in perceived conflict.
Okay, Councillor Spicer, I see you have your hand up.
Just a process question, just for clarity. So we're going to be advertising as a public hearing and having a public hearing as a part of this process?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to...
This one has had significant interest. Madam Mayor and I were a part of, APTN also did an interview on this last week or the week before, 2
I
weeks
think
ago.
the week before.
So 2 weeks ago, so there's a fair amount of interest that we want to make sure that we give everyone an opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments on this particular? Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
I just want to reiterate some of Councillor Sutherland's comments, and that is that when you get into something like this and changing a name, you are going to have a very eclectic mix of different wants and needs, and I'm all for it. It's good dialogue, but be prepared, because when picking a name for a road, it can be a very touchy subject, and you can get a litany of opinions, and it can be a real quagmire. So if we're prepared for that, I am, and that's not a problem, but I would concur with Mr. Sutherland in that this is something that could happen. So maybe it's a good learning experience for us if we go through it. Maybe it's part of the process, but that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob. I guess I just have one, and I don't really have a comment, but we talked about different names. I also had a name submitted to me, so I will pass it on to Deepak and Colleen, and they can put it in with their other information that they have, because I'm sure that they've had more than one request for a name there. So we'll just have to work through the process. I know it may not work as well as we think it could, but we do have to go through the process because the formal request was made. Anybody else have anything?
So it should be only the 6 people should only be the ones who should be discussing the name, or the 5. I mean, what is it to do with anybody else, really, to change the name of the street?
Well, I thought there were 8
Somebody else is
owners.
changing it
Was it
already.
8? Yeah,
I
I
thought
know.
there were
but
8
it's-
owners, but we'll have to
The
cross that.
residents do have opinions and are weighted against other opinions, but on any kind of a street name, I think all residents of the RN have some level of input capacity. Whether they exercise it or not is the question.
I could,
Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
as far as street names in the village and subdivisions, at the resorts, but in that area, in our rural areas, that they're numbered roads as it is now. So there used to be names for roads, as you know, Shorty's Road and so on.
Right.
But anyway, in the existing areas, they're all numbered roads. That would be my argument, that it should stay a numbered road and not, that's all. And now it could be, I understand that in a subdivision, you want to name a road, but there is, or I do understand that, but that's not the system out on our road, on our road system, our grid road, so. I'd like to see it stay that way now that this name is being taken off. That's all.
Okay, I guess, kind of to close this off, and Councillor Sutherland brings up a point where, the roads used to have names. Basically, that was a number of years ago. I would have to think probably it was in the mid-80s maybe, that council, there was a big push on by the province. So for better travel and everything, where they decided that the municipality should number the roads like from the border, starting with the first mile would be mile 1, coming north. That's when we chose to do ours. And that is when the names ended up to be numbers, is when the province put the big push on for better travel and better finding locations and things like that. Rather than looking for Chorney's Road, you're looking for Road 80 North kind of thing. So that's how that happened. And like I say, I think it was, I remember who the read at the time was, it was Ron Fuchik. So that's probably, I think, mid-80s or so. Go ahead,
If
Deepak.
you would allow me, Madam Mayor, one of
Yes.
the things that we have as a discussion in Colorado we're looking at is what are the options available? So as an example, 84 North. It would seem like 84 North seems to run here and would make sense for it, but it's going east-west. And as I look in closer, this one is also seen as Road 84, 84 North. And so whether that exists or not is the bigger question, and that's what we need to check.
You
Okay.
can still, as an example, Road 32, and there's Road 32B,
Yes.
offshoots of the road, so there is a way around that.
Yes.
And we have that system. Now,
So those, thank you, those were some of the things we'd have to take a look at.
Yeah.
We looked at 31, which is running east and west. Maybe that one makes more sense, or I mean, north and south as opposed to east and west,
yes,
because this road does run north. And so is that a better option? Or does it make sense to be part of 84A? That's something that council can discuss about, because it's kind of a continuation of an existing road.
yes, we do have that in place now in some areas, so.
Or we,
Okay, I think we kind of talked about this. Anybody else have any comments or queries on this one? I think we'll leave it to administration to put a package together, and we'll try and put a process together so that council has the information. Once we've looked at some of the information, we'll have our public hearing or public meeting with the residents and whoever else may want to join us for that meeting, and hopefully we can work through this and get everything done, so. Okay, so with that, we will go to 6.3, Board of Revision members.
Okay, Madam Mayor, there was a request sent out to all of council with several options and names. Those individuals, various councilors responded. We contacted those individuals. As of the time of writing the decision paper, only one individual had responded with interest. We kept our option open, and as of this morning, we received a second individual's name available. So out of all the names that were submitted, the two individuals that showed, it's already been updated in the decision paper. So what it is Mike Fabian has identified himself, who's a retired executive, who's part of our boat launch committee and is a resident of the RM, as well as Mariette Ruwicki, sorry, for the pronunciation, is a resident of the community, and she has also shown interest in being available on this. We would be only adding one person. What we're looking at is adding one to an existing list, which has Jeff Nickey, Alan Prue, Bruce McDonald, Horst, and then the next person would be our members. So I'll leave it up to council to make a decision on who they would prefer to take a look at.
Okay, I'll open it up. Anybody have any preference, whether it be Mike or Marietta? They're both our residents, so go ahead
Lady,
with Marietta.
yes, please.
Okay. Gentlemen, Rob or Scott, any preference?
No,
I think I had Marietta down as one of my before.
Okay,
Just,
go ahead.
Go ahead. why wouldn't we have just gone back to the well that we used last year?
Because somebody wasn't able to be here.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why we had to try and find someone else, because I think all the members that were sitting at the board last year were contacted and someone could not participate this year, so that's why we had to find somebody else. I guess my question is, where does it state we can only have 5 people? Go ahead, Colleen.
That was council's generic decision at the time. There's no established size of the board. Keeping in mind you've got 5 different personalities to keep the conversation focused. 5 seem to be the ultimate number of the day. That's it. There's no comment.
Okay, yeah, and I guess 5 being an uneven number, if it comes to a contentious assessment that they're dealing with, then there's no chance that there's going to be a tie vote kind of thing too.
Correct.
Okay, I guess some spoke, some didn't, so I think the ones that, go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
To speed up the process, I'll go with Sanders.
Okay, so we will have Marietta sit in then.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll pass the motion to do this.
I just updated it.
Okay, so.
And I will fix the spelling if I spelled it wrong. Sorry.
I don't think so. Okay, go ahead, Deepak.
Resolved, Jeff Mickey, Ellen Prue, Bruce McDonald, Forrest Welk, and Mariette Lewicki to sit on the Board of Revision being held on November 12, 2020. And further be it resolved that Jeff Mickey be appointed as chairperson and Brett Pastura be appointed as secretary of the board. And further be it resolved that the non-municipal board members be paid an honorarium of $150 for each session.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Bazarowicz seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. 6.4, Balsam Harbor. And this is an issue that kind of creeps up every year, and it is parking along one of the roads. 100? No. Anyways, I see that Deepak does have a paper here for us, so you
Yes.
go right ahead.
Tyler has been working on this with Public Works, and this is Tyler's presentation.
Oh.
So Tyler and I worked on it together, but it's Tyler's presentation. Tyler, basically the issue is with more and more people using the harbor every year, the area is slowly becoming extremely congested, especially during the fishing season as well as during the summer. This results in local residents having trouble navigating the area, as well as visitors to the area because people are parking in all sides, as well as we've even had concerns about people parking, so it was difficult to even dock the boats. And currently we have only a handful of no parking signs posted in the area, so they went through it and they've gone. Signs are being posted as we speak. Just wanted to make sure council is aware of what's happening. So resolution has been that after working with Public Works, Kevin at Public Works, and Tyler, they came up with the idea of how we see, how that's Tyler and Kevin, see the area with additional signs. This means we would be going from 4 signs to about 8 to 20 total. And that's basically making sure that it takes everything into consideration in that area. And so what they show here on the sketch, let me just make it a little bigger anyways. Red stars are the currents. So as you can see along this particular cul-de-sac, there were some existing signs. And so what they're looking at is putting all where the black dots are is the new signs to say no parking. And that allows for people to be able to also then move along. And what he says is on the left, on the designated parking, on the left side is where we currently have the only designated parking sign right now. Reality is people park on both sides, making it very difficult, as you can imagine. Looking eastbound on Path 500, they believe that keeping the right-hand lane as to a no parking area would allow people coming from Roxanne Close as well as Brittany Road to have nothing impeding their range of vision when they're making turns. And then, and so we would also be restricting people from parking in the cul-de-sac, so that's the other part of this, and side streets as they've received complaints about people coming in, putting big large trailers and vehicles parking there. Doing so will prevent people from parking trucks and trailers and not set up for that type of activity, which is the residents there will be, I think, pleased about. So that's an update on it. Felt it was important for council to know because in case you hear anything from your residents, so they're in the process of putting up those signs right now.
Okay, I'll start with Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Boulanger, and then Councillor Bazarovich. So go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
That's great to see. I had a call from a resident 2 weeks ago, Mr. Johansson. And this is exactly what he was suggesting. I just said, well, thanks very much. I suggested he call into the office and get his concerns, I don't know if he did call or not, but it's nice to see this happening now. I know we're going to have concerns along 500, but we don't control 500. And one other question, can we maybe talk about when the ice is thick enough with the parking on the ice again? We did it 1 year. We can just kind of maybe talk about it when the time comes for parking on the ice. It seems to work at Chalet Beach, and I don't know why it wouldn't work here. Like on the other side of, it's just rows upon rows of cars for the ice fishermen, and they go onto the, so it would take a lot of pressure off, because you're still gonna have cars parking on 500, which is not our road, but anyway, this is nice to see. That's all. Thank you.
Rob, before I turn it over to you, I'm just going to comment on that, and I know that we have talked in the past about, clearing the ice so the ice fishers can go out there in the winter when the ice is safe, and I think the last time we tried to have it done, the union stepped in because the personnel did not want to go out on the ice, so that's something that if council chooses to go in that direction, and I know it's a little ways away, but maybe it's something we should be thinking about. We may have to hire a private contractor if we so choose to clear a parking lot on the ice.
Yes,
so.
exactly.
Okay. Councillor Boulanger, go ahead.
This is a good start. They've done some thinking here. Signs everywhere, signs. They don't always work, and people don't always listen to them. This elephant is only going to grow. It's been growing as long as I can remember, and the popularity and the area itself for access onto the lake is absolutely phenomenal. I really think we have to continue some dialogue that we had earlier about looking for potential, rudimentary parking lot area. We did sort of view down and look at some land there. I believe there was some RM land somewhere not far from 500. This is a start, but we really have to look at, and when I say rudimentary, it's just clearing the bush, putting some pit run in there, and making a parking lot for these vehicles. It's the size of the parking lot. That's going to be up in the air on how big, but something's better than nothing. This may work for a while, but we do have to continue talking about maybe some more areas for parking.
Okay, thanks for that, Rob. Councillor Bazarovich.
I'm more or less just gonna repeat what Rob said, this is a great start, but it's very, very limited. It's gonna fill up, it's not gonna go away, we're gonna have to find a permanent solution sooner or later.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I'm gonna echo what my two previous councilors just stated, like, we are kind of marketing ourselves as sports fishing capital, I believe it is. So we need to have the facilities in place, and, you know, I understand, you know, the residents' concerns and why this is happening, but, you know, we need to put some parking in, because this isn't gonna solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else have comment? And again, go ahead, Councillor Strang.
So people don't always read signs. I think it's great that we're gonna do this for the cottagers, but are we gonna implement anything from the people that are not gonna follow the rules? Are they gonna get a ticket? Can we fine them, give them a ticket? Can Tyler?
That would be something that Tyler would have to look into, and perhaps our CAO, Mr. CAO, can you elaborate on that for us, please?
I have been working, that's part of my CAO report coming forward.
Sorry.
Thank you for the segue. I'm taking a look at how we can enforce some traffic.
No, that's great. It's great for the cottagers, like gives them like, you know, an uplift, but when nothing's being done, we can plaster tons of signs. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and I totally agree with the previous councillor saying that we need to find a parking lot area that we are.
Yeah, and
Fishing is a big thing, and you know what, with
It is.
COVID, everybody's doing more outdoor sports and doing more family things
Yeah.
together, so it's only gonna be bigger, I think, even this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, we'll deal with the no parking signs being put up. We may get calls from residents, or we may get calls from some irate fishermen and women that want to park there and aren't able to. But I guess what I would ask is that if administration at some point in time, in the not too distant future, I don't mean for next meeting, I would think maybe even the November, end of November, or the beginning of December meeting, is put a little bit more information together as to if there is any municipal land in the area, where it might be, things like that, so that we can talk about if we want to do a parking lot somewhere in the area. And the other thing is there any contractors that would be willing to go out on the ice too? Once it's thick enough that they can go out there. Go ahead, Councillor Corbis. Oh, I thought you had your hand up.
He was volunteering.
Oh. Well, I know, and I have to agree with Councillor Sutherland's comments on the other side of the lake at Chalet Beach. There's hundreds of cars out on the ice. And it was my understanding that the RM actually cleared that ice, but we ran into that snag, so we just haven't tried to do it in the last couple of years. So, and I think that will close that one off unless anybody else has any other comments. We will move to 6.5, which is the Guns Creek diversion. Go ahead.
The Guns Creek diversion is basically the property for sale that we've had, the administration has been working with. We needed an outlet, and the land was identified. We've been working with the property owners on how to best acquire that land, and an agreement was been made that they would take the assessed value, which is a reasonable amount, and this was a recent reassessment done by the assessment department or the provincial assessment, and they did it on site with their individual assessor. So we're recommending to council that we proceed with acquiring this property for our Guns Creek diversion. So what it says is, whereas there is a requirement, before I go to the resolution, you may want to.
No, I think leave the resolution, and then if we have any comments, we can, before the vote is taken, then we can talk about it.
The resolution is where there's a requirement to acquire additional lands for the Guns Creek diversion project, and whereas an informal agreement was negotiated with the owner of the lands, therefore be it resolved, the CAO be authorized to finalize purchase of RL 254-AD 3392 at the assessed value of $97,300.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbus, Councillor Strang, seconds. I'll open it up, any discussion? Seeing nothing around the table, I will call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, portable washrooms.
On
Go
this one,
ahead.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to ask Colleen to give a bit of an update on
Thank you.
portable washers.
Thank you. Just waiting for my screen to update, sorry. So council had requested that letters go to businesses asking for support to cover the cost of the washrooms. So on the agenda is a draft letter that Brett actually helped me out with, actually wrote most of it. So I would like to send this letter out to the local businesses that council wanted. I believe I've identified probably 12 local registered businesses within the municipality. I'd also like to expand that list to other companies that would be interested in supporting a tourism within the municipality. I do have one concern about this letter going to the local businesses. As we know, certain local businesses in the whole municipality feel that due to the current times that they're struggling. Council's call, but I feel that if council goes out and asks for support, they're asking the local businesses for money where they're in need of money themselves. I would highly suggest that we go external, you can send it out, please, it's your call. But I would highly suggest that we go external more to the sporting areas. Having said that, I did expand our search to one particular company who will remain nameless right now. They cannot support us with the porta potties, but they are very excited to support the municipality in another venture to do with tourism moving forward. So we'll get into that later, but I just wanted you to know that we will be getting some big support on other avenues to do with tourism, just unfortunately not the porta potty part. So I'm just looking for council's direction, do you like the letter? Do you want to send it out to the local businesses and external sources? So, I don't know, local fishermen or fisher areas or sporting goods stores, that's where I'm at.
So do you have like a program, like say if you donate $1,000, your name goes on it or something like that? Or if it's 500, it goes on, that kind of thing?
I did not go to that extent, and I didn't ask for any particular dollar amounts.
Like they have those gold things,
Yeah.
silver and bronze things?
Like they're doing right now for South St. Clements for their fundraising committee. I don't know with the porta potties, we're not looking for the numbers that we're looking for South St. Clements, but absolutely, if that's what you guys want to do.
Well, I'm thinking more like the casino. Like, if you give them something like that, if they put their name on it or waivers or whatever, But if you're just looking like if you say to all the businesses and one business guy sends $25 or whatever, I mean, what's in it for him? Do you know what I'm saying, for him to get anything out of it?
Councillor Boulanger had his hand up, and Councillor Strang after Councillor Boulanger.
That was my question. I like Brett's letter, but it doesn't talk about would you be willing to, because what it says is would you be interested in providing an annual commitment? Maybe we word it in a way that it says would you be willing to pay for a certain package, as Councillor Corbett said, which would include advertising of your business on the washroom? And my other comment, again, reiterating Councillor Corbett, is let's just say the casinos are still open, so they're not being chastised with these latest restrictions, so they would be the one that I would be going after for perhaps an endorsement or a advertising. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rob. Councillor Strang.
I totally agree with the other two councillors, but bringing Colleen's point in here, with COVID times, I totally understand that our businesses have a struggle, but I think they should still get the letter, be informed that we are progressing with this, to let them know that we're taking some action because they complain about people coming to use their washrooms. And maybe there'd be something in there going with the different levels, that they could have a lower level and still have their name on there, but they're still participating in it. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that, and I guess, you know, we talk about our businesses, but there's also businesses that the Fishers use, that some are in our municipality, some are outside of our municipality, but they all get revenue from fishers coming into the area. They may not be from our area, the fishers, but they come into our area, they go to the local bait shop and they grab their bait and they head wherever, you know, like, and I guess, you know, we talk about these areas where we need to put the washrooms, but we gotta remember that there's fishing along the river from here right to the lake. And
Cabela's.
you know, like, there's different bigger companies, I think, that we could approach. And I would agree that maybe we should have it on a, you know, your $200 donation gives you this, or, you know, your $50 donation. Like, don't make it at a cost that Joe ratepayer or just a fisher. There might be some fishermen that may want to donate, and you're not gonna ask them for a big sum of money. If they're willing to donate $25, hey, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
So,
But I think a different kind of letter's gotta go out to Cabela's, somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? And I think those are the type of people, and I would think that they would, even the casino, a different letter has to,
Yeah, there's
it's gotta
some of them,
have
and-
more,
yeah.
or waivers, you know, these guys are all benefiting from this and it's costing us money. You know?
Well, and another company that comes to my
Fishing
mind is
hole.
the fishing hole.
Yeah,
You know, you got the fishing hole, you got Cabela's, you
even
got
there's a couple little places in Salkirk here.
That smoking fish place
smoking
is just,
fish, it's just popping all the
Yeah.
time, so. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I noticed on the locations too, you do have the fishing areas, Kirkman skating rink. Maybe for later on, we could expand it, say, into the Lockport area, because it's, like you mentioned, it goes from one end right to, up to the lake that people are along there fishing, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how bad the washrooms are down in the Lockport area, but
Yeah,
we do have a lot of fishermen down there too, but that could be something to expand on later.
right, and if I'll let Colleen comment, I see she put her hand up there.
I am including Lockport businesses. Like, I will include in the whole sponsorship request, I'm including all the businesses right from Lockport up to Granwood.
But we don't have a porta potty down in the Lockport.
It doesn't matter, they're still fishermen, that's the way
That-
my
yeah.
head was going. So I was gonna include them, but we could get pushback because of that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and we have talked about putting porta potties in Lockport, but we didn't come up with a location, or
Right in the treatment plant, we have our own property.
we didn't come to any conclusion on that. Well, and the other thing is too, I mean, the former Knoscola Museum that is now, I believe, owned by Peguis First Nation, you know, it may be worth it to reach out to Peguis to see if they would be interested even in putting some porta potties on that location, because the museum is, as far as I understood, it's to be demolished because it was, they had a lot of issues with the inside of the building, and you know, that would be another place to look at for some washrooms. And nothing wrong with your suggestion, Councillor Bazarowicz, when I'm thinking like if you're down at Lockport at the locks there, you're, you know, it's closer. Yeah, so. Okay, so Deepak or Colleen, and then I'll let Deepak wrap up. Colleen?
Okay, so I'll take that direction and move forward with that. I also wanted to confirm, because we need to make a commitment, are we gonna purchase the porta potties? I have not received any replies to my maintenance only email that went out,
Okay.
but I'll still chase that. But are we gonna purchase our 6 porta potties, or do we want to continue renting? Because that makes a huge difference on the quotes that I'm getting.
Right.
I think council was leaning towards purchasing at the last meeting. I'm just looking for a commitment, and I did receive confirmation that the price remains. And it's, I'll give them like 2-week turnaround from the day I order to the day they're here.
Okay, I guess my question on that, and I know we did talk about that, but if you can't get anybody to give you a quote for cleaning only, I would have to say that we shouldn't be purchasing them at this time, because who are we gonna have to clean them?
Exactly. So I would, if council, put it this way, so if council's in favor of purchasing, and I get somebody that will clean it, will purchase, say by the end of October, because usually these start December, so by the end of October, if we don't, then we'll go with the rental
Till next
for the
year.
winter season.
Councillor Horbus?
And I think at Grand Marais, we have 2 there, I think we should only put 1 there.
There was only one at the, is it Thorncliffe?
Well, I don't know, I'm talking about the dock at Balsam Bay. There
We
was
had
2 there, we should only put 1 there. Like, why are we putting 2 there? You know, we have to cut, if we're cutting someplace, just put the 1 there. You know, we're putting 2 there before, let's just put 1 there, and then I don't know where the other one, right in Grand Marais, we're putting
At
1?
Thorncliffe, we're at one, well, I don't know what it's like there now, but that's where they drove down onto the ice.
Mhm.
That's where there was one at the top of the,
So
by
if
the
we put
road
1 there, 1 there, and then 1 at
Sunset Bay.
Sunset.
One at
Yeah.
Laconia. It was 2 at Balsam Harbor, 1 at Sunset Bay, 1 at Laconia. There was 1 at Grand Marais and at Kirkness. So that was the 6. I
Yeah,
don't know why they put 2 at Balsam Harbor.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
I don't think there's any. And then we had mentioned before, or I had mentioned to Rob about those garbage cans or whatever there, about putting some of them there.
And that
Yeah,
was.
they're there now, and they've been picking up all summer.
Okay,
yeah, your program, that program, Operation Cleanup, does not go through the winter though, correct, Councillor Boulanger? It is just a summer program?
Just a summer, winter is an option, we've always looked at it, just haven't pulled the trigger on it.
Okay, well, and I guess the other thing is you have staff that you need funding for if you were to have it as a year-round service.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Deepak, I know you had your hand up, did you want to
I heard,
have the last word?
just wanted to address a couple of things that were, there's the issue around doing the portable potties and doing some level of sponsorship. But what I'm hearing more is an overall sponsorship policy that should be developed by council. If you're talking about putting it on ice skating rink boards or other locations, that can be overall policy discussions of what you're willing to do, and then you can set up a request for those types. I wouldn't want to mix those together, is my only suggestion on that. And if council is interested, you can certainly look at sponsorship policies. You know, anywhere from naming your existing buildings to putting it on all these kinds of scenarios, and giving a level of promotion throughout your arm.
Go ahead, Councillor Morris.
if we rent these potties and somebody wants sponsorship, we'll be able to put the decal on there? Is that an issue with them?
I would ask, I know that they did put the signage cleaned once weekly last year. I don't know if they would, because they would have their own advertising on it, but I'll ask.
Yeah, so I mean, we're asking for something, we don't even know if we can deliver on it,
Correct.
so.
Well, there's many ways of addressing that. One is to put it on the porta potty or a sign right beside the porta potty.
Right,
Supplied
that's
by.
what I was thinking, you don't want stickers all over the, and I don't think they'd allow that. The owners of the porta potty.
They
Used
may
to have
not,
If
they
we
may
can.
not.
a board up with,
Spend $300 to put a sign up, and you only make $100.
Go ahead, Counselor Bazarowicz, you
Well,
did have your hand up.
Just a weird twist all that, yeah, they have their own sign, that's advertising too, like, can we get a discount for having several of them, like, you know, like, I don't know how many we're up to here, but,
6.
6, I think we said.
you know, is there a better rate, like, is that a single rate, or is that a, you know?
Is it a
multi-rate.
discounted rate?
Uh, Their signs on their equipment is their signs on their equipment. We don't have a lot of say in that. If they were requesting to put it on our land, then we may have some say. But we're renting from them. It's no different than rent a truck. You rent it, any of those, they have their own signs, you have no control, or any ability to say that because I'm advertising for you as I'm driving around, that I should get a discount.
I just think what Councillor Bazarowicz is saying is, so we rent one, it's this price, but if we rent 5, you know how they multi-group things?
Yeah.
Is there a better price that we can get maybe?
It's only one person who does it, so we're kind of screwed, like, I mean,
There are a few.
But
There are a few, but only one is always submitted to us, and I see Colleen might have something more there. She did put her hand up. So go ahead, Colleen.
She, 'cause it's a lady I deal with, the company does give us a bit of a break. So I don't know exact whether it's $1 a unit break or $5 a unit, but because they go from one end all the way each time, they're not going just here and then next week over here. So it is a little bit cheaper, but I don't know if it makes a difference.
Okay, go ahead, Counselor Strang.
And again, are the places that were up there that are local, they weren't interested in, no?
Not yet,
Not yet?
not
Okay.
yet.
And that's the sad part there. that-
Yeah, it is, like, you know, I guess we're trying to entice our businesses to, you know, work for us, and for whatever reason, if they choose not to, that's their prerogative.
And I tried to word it in such a way that we understand that you probably can't do them all. So if you can only do one, please let us know what your bid would be on that one, because maybe we're gonna select 5 different companies. So I tried to word it in that way to make it super friendly, and that they wouldn't think they had to do them all.
Right.
But if they wanted to, that was also an option. But it was the Thanksgiving weekend, like,
Yeah.
I-
Okay, so the direction is what from council? Continue on as past practice and look into the advertising. Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
so what I'm hearing is if we purchase them, we can't get anybody to clean them out, though,
That
for
is
sure?
That is what Colleen said, nobody had replied to her.
As of today.
So we have no option anyway then.
But I mean, we never put an ad in the paper and said, we're looking for somebody to contract to clean 6 washrooms once a week during the winter. I mean, we have we?
Okay, that totally changes the scope if you guys want me to go outside the local businesses. Because the original conversation was, somebody was getting calls from the local people, and why weren't we considered? So that's why only local people, or, pardon me, registered businesses within our municipality were contacted. If we want to go outside that scope, maybe there is somebody else, just so everybody's on the
Do
same
that.
page.
I thought that the contract that we had was with a company that was outside of our municipality.
That's what I
They,
thought
they
too.
definitely are, but they pay a business license to our
Okay.
municipality.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they have a business license with our municipality, it doesn't matter whether they reside or work out of our municipality or elsewhere, as long as they have a business license with us, they were contacted.
Correct.
Okay.
Some pay more because they're outside than the.
Right,
locals.
exactly, yes, but they still have a business license, because
Correct.
it's more for outside business, or a business outside of our municipality to have a business license than it is for somebody
Correct.
inside the municipality. Okay, I see Councillor Belanger has his hand up, and then Councillor Sutherland. Go ahead, Rob.
We move on, but in terms of what Colleen's done, it was very micro. Yeah, you know what, again, there you go. We try to do what's right, and nobody bids on it locally, so I'm suggesting, go with what we did last year, we rent them for now. If we can't find somebody to clean them, that's not gonna work. But I would deploy it and ask a more of a broader, outside our municipality to bid on it. And if that's what we gotta do to make it work, that's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Sutherland.
I just think we should advertise what, just what Dave said. Try it. Can we put an advertisement out there for somebody to clean? The 6.
We could.
Why don't we?
If council chooses to purchase them, like, I don't know, I guess if we did go that route, we would have to look at what the total cost is going to be. Purchasing the 6 or whatever porta potties, plus what we would pay to have them cleaned by an individual. And then versus what the company is gonna pay us. Now, the other thing that comes to my mind when we say if we put an ad out there for cleaning, what equipment, how do they get cleaned and all those sorts of things. Like they have to be sanitized, like most people, unless they're in that type of business, wouldn't have the proper equipment to do that kind of cleaning. So that would be another thing, so.
I understand, but we could. how
Try
long
it?
take well, I'm just suggesting, I think we should, and see what response we have. And we could stipulate, you know, it has to be, how the cleaning has to take place, or what, not just putting the hose in and sucking it out. Whatever has to be done properly. But there is a lot of septic collars, and, you know, up that way, close to there, there's just, I don't know what we have to lose, we still have some time.
We do, but when you
We got
mentioned
that out
septic
there.
callers in the area, they don't seem interested
Well, I
because
just-
Colleen has reached out to them. So do you think they might be interested in just the cleaning and not the supplying of?
I think we should try it, that's all.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Horvitz.
When I've talked to the septic guys in the area, they're interested in pumping it out. That's all they're interested in. They're not interested in cleaning it, because they say they're not set up for that. Okay? So, that's the thing with that. They even had some good suggestions, like some of them said that what we should do is put a holding tank underneath and then put the toilet on top and then let it go in there and then they can pump out from the holding tank. It's would be way better and probably more cost efficient for us. But we sure, what is our cost on these toilets a year? Like for the year, what does it cost us for this?
So, I'm just looking at past ones that I presented to you guys. I
in
don't have
a
it
year,
updated.
for
For the summer rental, this is just summer for 15 weeks. So $2,145 for the rental to set up was $340 total, would have been about 10 grand for summer only.
okay, and then the winter, another 10 grand?
You can use that as,
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're wasting
the
a
winter
half
has
a
to
day
be
talking
one.
about this thing and it's $20,000 and it's costing us and we get nothing from it. You know, what do we get from it? We get people come from the city that aren't taxpayers and we're supplying a service for them. Because if we don't, everybody's spreading their toilet paper all over everybody's yard, who are taxpayers. So that's where the frustration for me comes.
But we do want to promote, we have a big industry here with this. It's not gonna get any smaller. The
No.
light station, and, you know, summer and winter, it draws a lot of people,
Yeah.
which spend their money when they get here.
But I mean, like, I can't see why the casino wouldn't step up
Oh, yes, I agree.
for $5,000. I mean, what's that for them? Do you know how many that hotel, you can't even get a room there, it's booked.
I will send out for sponsorships regardless, but moving forward do we wait till the end of the month to see if I can get somebody that's gonna service and maintain, and then we can purchase, or just go ahead with the rentals again? But the sponsorship, to me, that's a separate, you guys have already
Yeah.
answered.
Yeah.
We're going
Yeah.
forward with more
Yeah.
sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See
Okay,
if you can find somebody to bid on it outside, and that's it.
yeah. I see Deepak would like to have a word, so go ahead, Deepak.
Basic finances. It's pretty expensive for somebody to go out and service that many unless they have the rental or something else that goes along with it. Just to do cleaning, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of people responding because that's a significant cost when you're going all over this RM just for mileage alone, let alone wear and tear, and the amount of time you're losing for transportation. The other is, if somebody wants to come in and just pick up the septic without cleaning, then you're gonna have much more difficult time trying to find somebody to clean. Because now you're just having somebody clean without even making, what kind of a charge would they charge to do that? I think we need to be understanding that we don't have the large volume. I think the only real option is if you were able to get some level of sponsorship to cover the cost for the RM.
One way or another, we have to nip this in the bud.
Well, and I guess my comment would be just to kind of try and close this off is, Councillor Horvus, you did make some good points about, talking to some of the septic haulers in the area. If they have some ideas, get them to send it into the municipality, like that might give us a little bit more information on how to go forward with it. But I think my suggestion at this point in time would be is let Colleen hang on for a couple more weeks and see if anybody else does bite on, the cleaning or submitting a bid for the rental of the porta potties, and I think bring it back at the end of the month and be prepared to make a decision at that time, one way or the other.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sound fair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving on, we are at 6.7, the municipal office is snow clearing, and I think that this is a yearly thing or every couple of years that we have to do, so go ahead, Colleen or Deepak.
This is a yearly thing, and what we have is basically a 2% increase from last year. Last year, we were paying $1,000 per month, and then got up to $1,020. It goes from April or November till April 15th, and we're paying approximately $5,100 plus taxes. We're recommending that we proceed, and a resolution to that respect.
Okay, I would say go ahead with the resolution then, and we'll see if there's any other comments.
Resolved, CAO be authorized to accept the service proposal of Gelder's Enterprise at an annual cost of $5,100 plus taxes to provide snow clearance services for the municipal office walkways, entrances, and wheelchair access.
Can we put the date in there, like you have annual cost? To me, annual is like the whole year.
Sure. You can certainly put in from November.
2020, 2021? This is the winter season.
No, it's from November 1, 20 to April 15, 21.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
to me, annual is a whole year.
Sure.
Maybe it's just me.
Well, you're talking snow clearing, it's not all year. And we do hire them actually annually, but we do not.
Well, they do the grass, they actually do the summer maintenance
Yeah,
too,
and-
so.
It's a separate.
And my only question is, are we happy with the service?
Well, I think what I've seen they've done is
Okay.
pretty good compared to what has happened previous, so.
Do you have the document open? Can you give me those dates again?
November 1, 20 to April 15, 21.
Okay.
Okay. So this reload.
Okay,
Would you like me to read the resolution?
sure, go ahead.
Resolve, CAO be authorized to accept the service proposal of Geller Enterprises at a cost of $5,100 plus taxes to provide snow clearance services for the municipal office walkways, entrances, and wheelchair access from November 1st, 2020 to April 15th, 2021.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Counselor Bazarowicz, second. Counselor Sutherland, and Counselor Corbus, you had a comment?
So, before we had talked about if these things were gonna come up all the time, we were gonna tender for them. All the time, these new things, and we're not, we're just giving 2%, and I hate to sound like this, but every time we do this, we just 2%, 2%, 2%, so where do we get the 2% from all the time? Everything, all our costs are all going up, you know, and I don't know, I don't get it, like,
Well, I guess the question I would have is when we started using Gellers to provide these services, is it a year-to-year contract or is it a 5-year contract with increases on a yearly basis?
Year to year.
Year to year. So if council chose in the spring to advertise for the services for like next year for 2021, we have that option to do that.
Correct.
Okay, so this is just for the snow clearing. So if council chooses to advertise and get bids again in the spring, then we can do that. Because I think when they started, we did advertise and there was a couple of companies that put their bids in, so.
I have nothing against the company or anything, I'm just, like, it's just 2%, you know, all the time, like, it's, and to be comparable, I mean, we have nothing to compare it to, you know?
Go ahead, Deepak.
It's a good point, Counselor. What we could do is sometime in the new year, once we've gone through this year's budget and so forth, we could come back and say, here are all our contracts that we have on a regular basis, and then decide on which ones need to go out for regular bids as a policy, so that you bring a good point that, you know, some every 3 years or every 2 years or every year you go out to see if there's any other opportunities for savings.
If, I could see if this Gallagher's or whoever, Company X, would come to us and say, okay, we want to do your snow again this year. So my first thing to say to them would be, you can do it again for the same price you did last year, otherwise we're going to tender it out again. Because to do that increase again, I mean, you know, it's just, it's the principle of it, or whatever, you know, I don't know, I just, like, we gotta get that 2% for some, I know I sound chintzy, you know.
2% is basically cost of living, and that's just the way it is.
No, that's not the way it is. Well, I don't see that ever. It's not the way it is.
Counselor Sutherland?
I do see your point, that there's, you know, if you have a gravel contract, you have to have tenders every year. So it makes sense, we should review it, but, it's $20 per month, so it's not a big,
It's $100 increase from last year.
so if they were up $1,000, so you know, okay, we better tender this out again. But having, you know, listening to what you said, what does it hurt to tender it out? It keeps everybody honest.
It's, so you went to them and said, we're not gonna give you that $100, do you think they're gonna say, no, we're not gonna do it? You said it's only $100, I'm just going for the principle of it, it's the 2%.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I have to agree with what Deepak said, is perhaps when we're doing our budget for 2021, is all these contracts that we have with whoever be brought forward, and council has to make a decision whether we want to re-advertise every year or every 3 years, or whatever the case may be. I mean, you know, it maybe is not a good comparison, but we do have employment contracts that are for 5 years, some are for 3. We have other contracts for other services that we get, like our cleaning, for example, the inside and the shop. Like, maybe it is time for us to look at when these contracts are, not the employment ones, because they are for a certain time frame. I'm not sure how the cleaning one works for the office and the public works, but maybe it is time to look at all of them and see what is the right amount of time. Like some of them I would not want to be doing every year. I could see entering into a contract for 3 years with an increase on a yearly basis, whether it be, you know, 1% or $10 a month, I don't care. But some of them I would just as soon have on a longer time frame than every year doing them. Because the other thing that could happen is if we're doing this every year, people may not want to bid on it.
Yeah, and it's gonna cost you $100 to advertise, to do it every year too, I see that, but I just don't.
And administration.
Yeah, but I'm just going to the point here, it's the, where do you
Okay,
get the 2% all the time?
It doesn't hurt to review it, but Deepak says I like that.
yeah, okay, so we're
Which
gonna,
ones we should, sorry.
that's okay.
Pretender.
So we're gonna go ahead with Gellers for this winter season, and we'll start looking at the contract times and costs when we do our budget for 2021. And Colleen, did we have a mover and a seconder? I'm sorry. Okay, any other comments or questions on this resolution? Colleen tells me I do have a mover and a seconder, so with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we are down to the closed list of accounts ending October the 13th, and if we can have the resolution, please.
Resolved, the council approved the October 13th, 2020 list of accounts, check numbers 202-02248, to numbers 202-02435 in the amount of $527,639.71 for payment.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, second Councillor Sutherland. Discussion, questions, queries on the list of accounts. Go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
I'd just like to bring to everybody's attention, I'm sure you'll see it. We have one payment on here, over $7,700. That's just a maintenance payment for the Lockport treatment plant. Just throw that out there.
Okay,
And
anything
that's an
else?
ongoing bill.
Every month?
No,
No,
not this
it's
high.
not every month.
Not this high, but every month we do get something out there.
Cheaper than $4 million.
Anything else on the list of accounts? Hearing and seeing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, bylaws. Unfortunately, I have not put together all my organizational bylaw schedule, so if we could please hold that one over till the end of the month. And I definitely will have it put together by then. 8.2 is bylaw number 2 of, or number 9 of 2020, and that's the house numbering for second and third reading. So, is there any questions on the house numbering bylaw? We all have copies of it attached to our agendas. Anything on that one? Okay, I'm going to ask Deepak then to read the resolution, please.
Resolved, bylaw 9 of 2020 being a bylaw of the rural municipality of St. Clements for designating a number for each house along the highways of the municipality be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horwath, second. Councillor Strang. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just,
Go ahead.
it's written for each house, should it be for each lot? Property? No?
We said that we didn't request addressing on vacant parcels.
It was just that we talked about before that all of a sudden somebody has a subdivision like it's happening here. All of a sudden you've got what used to be 100 foot was for a number of lots, and now he's going down to 8. You know,
But I guess the way the process works though is when the owner of that vacant property comes to get their lot grade, that is when the house number is assigned to them.
yeah, but are there enough numbers, or is it going to be down to like
Well, I think the way it
A,
was, it,
B, and C?
no, because there was a house number allotted for every 25 feet at one point in
25
time.
feet.
So, you know, so if you had 100-foot frontage, you actually had 4 numbers. So if you built in the middle of your lot, that's kind of the number that was assigned, and I'm assuming that that is still how it works, Colleen?
It's more and more actually measured. When a new subdivision is created and there's a new road, you've got a whole new set of numbers to be able to use. Generally speaking, they try to run the numbering the same all the way north, kind of the same all the way east-west, generally speaking. When a big subdivision goes in, like just across the road, those can get numbered at the time of the plan being registered, because they're all brand new roads. They're not going to be conflicting with anybody. Mile roads are measured. Yeah,
Well, as long as it's
And the,
thought ahead.
yes, normal practice is to apply about 25 feet for because you have to, the municipality has to look for 100 years out. And so it might be 50-foot lots or 80-foot lots or 100-foot lots, but the smallest they can usually get divided into is about 25-foot lots at some time in the future.
Well, we have some 25-foot lots that have been in existence for many, many years up in the beaches, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, I have a mover and I have a seconder for second reading, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Bylaw number 9 of 2020, the house numbering for third reading, and please keep your hands up as it is a automatic recorded vote for third reading. So if I could have the resolution, please.
Resolved bylaw 9 of 2020 being a bylaw of the rural municipality of St. Clements for designating a number for each house along the highways of the municipality be read a third time.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And bylaw number 10 of 2020, and that is the code of conduct for council members for second and third reading. Go ahead, Deepak.
Resolved, bylaw 10 of 2020 being a bylaw of the rural municipality of St. Clements to establish and regulate a code of conduct for members of council be given second reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Sutherland, Counselor Strang seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. And bylaw 10, the code of conduct for third reading.
Resolved bylaw 10, being a bylaw of the rural municipality of St. Clements, to establish a regular code of conduct for members of council, be read a third time.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Bazarowicz, Counselor Corbus seconds. Any further discussion? And again, I'll ask you to keep your hand up for a sec, because it is a recorded vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And bylaw 11 of 2020, and this is for first reading only, and I believe that this one is the adjusted cost for the narrow fire hall, because we don't need to borrow as much as we thought we did, but I will let Deacon explain that part of it.
Correct, Madam Mayor. What we have here is that we're borrowing considerably less than what was originally contemplated, and that has shown savings on the payments, because not only are we saving less, we are also being charged less on interest, because from the time it was originally contemplated in 2018 to now, we're getting at 2.83% interest, which has shown a significant savings to the RM, which increases its capacity to borrow and pay. We are looking at borrowing at this point 1.5 million approximately, $1,573,000 to be exact, with the savings that we saw earlier in the project itself. So we're moving forward with the bylaw that will allow us to do that. The first reading is a new borrowing bylaw.
Okay, just a question here, because I was looking at some of the schedules and that. If I look at Schedule A to this bylaw, it says to amend bylaw number 7 of 2018. Are we not proceeding with bylaw 7? Like, this is a brand new bylaw, is it not?
This is a bylaw that's an amendment to the existing borrowing bylaw.
Okay,
For the original borrowing bylaw gave us the authority to go out and borrow, and this is actually going out and borrowing that amount, the amount that we actually need.
okay,
And so that's why it's an amending bylaw to the original borrowing bylaw,
okay.
which then doesn't have to go through all that public hearing process.
So are you saying that this doesn't have to go to the municipal board?
No, it still does. We just don't need to have all the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so no public hearing, but it still has to go to the municipal board. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Okay, I have a clarification question and then 1 second question. Am I allowed to?
Sure.
Okay, so if you bring up the actual bylaw, and under number 1, it says the interest rate is 2.58%.
That was corrected from the original, from the version that you saw, Councillor, and it says now 2.83%. The reason for that occurred is that we had been approached by, or we had contacted several of the banks to see what the rate would be. The rate that was quoted to us was from CIBC, and what ended up happening was there was miscommunication on the part of the information they told us. They were able to guarantee it for up to 10 years, and then it was a type of a blended rate afterwards. So it wasn't a guaranteed 2.58 as we had anticipated, which creates a risk for a municipality. We're looking for a 20-year debenture with a guaranteed interest rate. So we went to the next best option, which was the Royal Bank at 2.83%.
Okay, so this bylaw then will be amended for second reading? Because it sounds like the Schedule A is the correct,
If I can,
right?
The document that's on the agenda right now has been refreshed with the
yeah,
new
please
information.
refresh, because this was uploaded once the meeting started.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
So really what you're saying, Colleen, is if we looked at our packages on the weekend, the information has been changed this morning to
The
reflect the
Correct,
correct information.
correct percentage.
Correct, the percentage of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then obviously Schedule A changed.
right.
We discovered that Friday late afternoon with dialogue with the bank going on. So there has to be no declaration of the bank.
Right. Counselor Spicer, did you refresh and open it up again and you have the correct amounts in there?
I'm just working on it.
Okay. I'll give you a minute.
If you do a right click and reload,
Can't do a right click if you don't.
Okay, so then part of that question also was is that the number in number 2 is correct, the 178,000 that we're not borrowing.
correct.
And the third question was, has anyone, like in the original bylaw, it sets out what the actual mill rate is gonna be? I think it was, 0.1,
0.159.
0.159.
yeah, has anybody, got an estimate of what the new mill rate is gonna be? Because it's not in the bylaw, like the amended bylaw.
The borrowing bylaw gave you the ability to borrow, and it identified where the mill rate, what was the anticipated mill rate that would be needed. I don't think you designated specifically the mill rate to this borrowing. So I don't know if you would be going back and, other than for information purposes, we can get that for you, but on an amending bylaw, because you're not gonna go back and give your mill rate back to the residents.
Well, yeah, but you're not gonna overcharge, right?
Well, you're not charging,
You're gonna charge based on what you need to borrow. So your mill rate should drop. That's the point I'm making.
okay? We can certainly take a look at that and prepare that for the budget process.
Yeah, I'm just, and I'm not asking you for today, I'm just saying that at some point in time, someone may ask, okay, well, how much a year is this gonna cost me, right?
Good question.
Based on my assessment. So
Yeah.
they're gonna wanna know what the mill rate is.
I understand, I had assumed that the mill rate was being used only as part of the analysis that you set your mill rate, that the mill rate that you set to your residents is just a general 2% mill rate that you had applied. You just identify that a certain percentage was going to be applied to this, or do you go in and now implement a mill rate once you begin the borrowing? That we're looking at a
Actually,
0.1.
what's gonna happen is if you're doing it at large, which is the way I think you're doing it,
Yep,
the mill rate is gonna fluctuate from year to year. Because as your assessment grows, your mill rate is gonna drop, right?
yes,
I'm just thinking, because right now it's new, there may be residents that could be, you know, wanting to check out what it's going to affect on their property. So if we had an estimate mill rate, you guys could estimate that for them.
sure, okay.
If I did the calculation myself, and based on a $300,000 assessed home, it was about $20 a year.
Okay,
At this point, it's going to fluctuate. Right?
yes.
Okay,
thank you.
Anything else on the bylaw for the expansion of the fire hall for first reading?
And thanks for clarifying the bylaw. I just read it on the weekend and it didn't really make sense to me. But thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Spicer. If we could have the resolution for the first reading, because I don't think we got that far.
Resolved bylaw 11 of 2020 being a bylaw of St. Clements for narrow fire hall expansion borrowing be given first reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Horbus second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, communications for information, number 9 on our agenda. I'm not sure if there's anything of super interest, but Deepak, were there any there that you wanted to discuss a little bit further?
Nope. I think they were just as information being provided specifically for council.
Okay, anybody else have anything that they wanted to comment on? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, this permit that somebody took out on Peltz Drive,
Okay, what is the number on it?
um,
Oh, sorry, Dave.
okay,
9.2.1, one of the attachments.
Okay,
yeah, 9.2.1, the middle one, designated foot. And they're allowing them to, man, why is it MI? Is that they're in charge of that too, permits for like the flood zone? So there, somebody put a, one for a cement slab for, it'll have to come to the planning board and us. I'm just curious, I didn't know that MI gives the permits out for that.
I didn't think they did either, but I
I'm just-
guess maybe there's been some changes and maybe MI does look after that.
Oh,
They're stating it's within a designated flood area, so they're installing a permanent foundation. Yeah, it was kind of different, eh?
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it's for a portable shed on a slab.
Yes,
So the slab is permanent.
The slab is permanent, yeah.
I mean, that's gonna, and it's below
It's
Flood
below the
zone.
floodplain, yeah.
And it does specifically state you still need permitting through Red River Planning. This
Right.
isn't
Yeah,
in place
the, I
of.
read that, yeah, they
Yeah.
have to go through
Yeah,
planning.
they would have to go to put their, to get the building permit to put their structure up, so.
It's like just down in the, on Peltz Drive, and I'm just, how is, am I involved in? That's all, just a question.
Okay,
It's a good question. I'm not sure why. there might
yeah,
be
why
changes
am
occurring
I?
at the province that we're not aware of.
Okay,
I didn't think to it.
the one that I guess I will just mention, and I just kind of looked at it now, is the 2021 municipal operating grant that we received. The amount is not on here, but it's 25% of our original operating grant.
Correct, it was the rest of the
The rest
payment.
of it, okay. Yeah, the amount's not on here. I was gonna see what the amount was, but it's not on the letter, so. Okay, and the only other one, there was one other one. And I don't know, perhaps Colleen or Deepak know a little bit more about this one, and that is 9.5.1. And that is the Lockport Community Development Corporation, and the letter that they had sent to the province, I believe it went. Did we hear anything more on this, or have they had any further meetings with the feds or the province?
There's been dialogue occurring between some of these individuals and the project manager, Malcolm, at the federal level. And this letter was recently sent out, and we're not aware of any further communications from the province. And I think they copied everybody on council, but I felt it was important to at least put it on to the official record as well.
Right, Now, have you had any further invitations from the federal government, from Malcolm, to participate in any meetings, or are they kind of done with that part of it?
They're not done with it. I think they'll be continuing on with further meetings and further
Okay.
consultation. I think they're also going to reach out to the community groups. I think what ended up happening is that the federal government went out and tried to do, like, you know, they communicated about a year ago saying that they were going to do something, and then COVID hit, and then they sent out invitations to have these Zoom meetings, but unfortunately there wasn't a lot of uptake. But I think the timing and the type of request that was coming in may not have flagged at the level of interest on the part of the local businesses. Once we started having some further dialogue, there's been some concern now, and mainly related with access. So as the bridge is being constructed, what type of access can you have onto their sites, and especially if you've only resorted down to one lane, how are you making left and right turns and impacting with people lining up? So there's been some concern to those, and they've been, it's something that Malcolm from the federal government is trying to address. And we're participating along with them. There's also been some requests from businesses to take a look at, saying that there is this work happening on the deck itself. Is there an opportunity to take advantage of some vistas off of that location?
Right.
I strongly suspect that the response from the federal government continues to be no.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put any vistas on there, so. Okay, anything else on the, go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I guess 9.4.1, about the Association of Manitoba and our convention that we usually go to. I find it very interesting when all the resolutions are brought forward of just different issues that other municipalities. Are they going to, I know they're going to have a Zoom one. I wonder, are they going to review those, or are those just for us to review and then they're just going to be passing them quickly at the meeting?
I'm not sure how they're doing the process this time around. I think they'll review them first, and then if there's some that don't need the approval of the body, like of AMM, the delegates, then they'll be just put aside, and the ones that need to be voted on will come forward on the day of the AMM AGM. So. The other one that I found kind of interesting is the, it's not on here, but I was looking at some information yesterday, FCM, the Sustainable Communities Conference. Like, it's, if you went, if they were having it in person, it's like 3 days. Well, the virtual one is almost 3 days. Like, it's part of 2 days and then 1 whole day. So I can't see myself sitting at my iPad for 3 days participating in some of the workshops and that. It's a little bit different, I thought, to do it that way, so.
It's these unprecedented times, we're learning how to do conferences.
I guess so, I guess so. I don't know.
The big thing is the networking that we're really missing out on.
Yes, yes.
I even find that going to some of the meetings that none of the other municipalities show up, I miss them there, so.
Yeah, there's not the social part of the interaction with other elected officials from other municipalities that we're also used to. And, you know, I think we all kind of miss that at some point in time, because you know, it's easy to go on Zoom or go to meetings and talk to everybody, but without the actual face-to-face, it's a little bit different, so. And boring. Okay, Rob and Scott, we are going to have a lunch break now for half hour till 12:30. We'll come back at 12:30. Is that enough time for everybody? Okay, we'll be back at 12:30, and we'll start with the committee reports.
date? I thought we had that last meeting in October.
6.
6.